Hello, and welcome to the third installment of Dartmouth-Hitchcock's Heads Up Coping Through COVID-19 Virtual Roundtable series. I'm Audra Burns, and your moderator for the series. Today is the first conversation in our third installment of Heads Up. We're going to discuss anxiety and excitement of students of all ages as they are returning to the classroom after spending the past year in either a hybrid or remote learning environment. I'm excited to be joined by a few wonderful guests, including Steve Beals, principal of Alvern High School. Hi, Steve.
Hello, good afternoon.
Angelica Ladd, a parent of two young children who are not yet eligible to be vaccinated. Hi, Angelica.
Hi there.
Emmett Smith, a high school freshman at Rivendell Academy in Orford, New Hampshire. Hi, Emmett.
Hi, happy to be here.
And John Broderick, a mental health advocate. Hi, John.
Good to see you, Audra.
You too. Thank you all for joining me. Let's get into this really important conversation. And we'll start with you, Steve. So how is Alvern High School managing in-person policies around masking indoors, sport, theater, and other activities?
Well, thanks for having us, and we're happy to share our journey. And I do think it's a journey. I think what we have in place today could be changed over a period of time. We've started school 3 days ago, and we've had, at this point in time, 3 live days. And our students are in full session. We are not offering anything like the previous year with hybrid learning, remote learning. We are all in. All in at Alvern High School represents 1,100 students in our high school, plus we have a career technical education center that has about 150 students who come to us from other districts. What we're doing in Hudson is really modeled after the state database for active COVID cases in our community of Hudson. And we have a sliding scale that many communities are using something similar. As we've opened school, we have been in a recommended mask wearing state. But again, it's based on data. If we have 0 to 19 active Hudson cases, we simply have the aspect of it's discretionary if you want to wear a mask or not. If we go from cases of 20 to 49, we go to a recommended state. And if we go to over 50 cases active in the town of Hudson, we would move our status through the entirety of the Hudson School District to mask required. I will tell you, as we've opened school in the mask recommended mode, I would suggest that a very small percentage of our students are actively wearing masks. That might be 50 to 100 students out of our building of, again, 1,200. When you add in our adults, which is over 100 as well, 1,350 individuals, and maybe we have 50 to 75 people wearing a mask. What I am doing as the principal of the school is I am choosing to wear a mask because I'm really trying to be a role model for students and any staff member who might be a little uncomfortable. And it's a perfect topic as we discuss mental health and reopening of school. I am of the belief that some students are coming from their homes wanting to wear a mask, or their parents want the kid to wear a mask. However, at the high school level, when the kid gets out of the car or off of the bus and walks into the building, just like their clothing choice for the day, sometimes kids change their outfits, and a mask is part of that outfit. So my belief is by modeling that I'll wear a mask in all of my social opportunities in the building, not outside, I believe that I'm sending a message to all students that it's perfectly fine to wear a mask, whether it's recommended, whether it's discretionary, whether it's mandated. As far as sports, we're offering our full complement of interscholastic athletics. One of my hats as a principal of high school, I'm the president of the NHIA Council. So I serve on the executive board of the NHIA. And together with other principals, athletic directors, the NHIA staff, we are super pleased that we are running sports as they are intended. Full inside sports, full outside sports, and game competitions have already begun. On theater, on music, we're running these activities as well. We've tended to have a little bit less participation in some of our activities, as some people are still battling, if you will, through the stigmas associated with how do I play an instrument with a mask on, trying to do some of our coursework outside. But there's been a general excitement in the Hudson School District that we're happy to have school live. We're happy to not be in a hybrid, have everybody in school, and we're doing the best we can through the first week of school.
Well, I think that sounds wonderful, and I applaud you for your efforts of normalizing mask wearing and by modeling it, normalizing that people can feel comfortable if they might not otherwise feel comfortable. So thank you for that. And I'm sure your students are thrilled to be back in sports. I know that's been something that they've been missing, especially where we've been trying to advocate for kids to get out and be healthy and active to help with mental health, but they didn't really have that outlet. So it's fantastic to hear that your school district is back to it. So Angelica, on the opposite end, because you have children who are much younger and they're not able to receive the COVID vaccine. So let's talk about, what anxieties or concerns do you have for your children when they're in elementary school or in daycare?
Sure. So, I'm the kind of mother who has anxieties about their children anyway. So this has kind of really been, for a lot of families and parents, very stressful because it's a lot of weighing risks, right? What is important for them socially, what is important for them mentally, like how do I balance this risk versus reward? So I think obviously my number one concern is health and well-being of my kids. So my oldest is 8, she's in the 3rd grade, and my youngest is just a month shy of 2, and they're both in care. So Naomi's obviously in school and Diana is in daycare, and she's there 4 days a week now. So that's been a big step for me because it's definitely just been me holding on until this is over. Like when this is over, she'll go and and everything will be fine. But I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't juggle everything anymore. So she's back in care. And it's nerve-wracking because you don't want them to get sick. You see all these really scary stories now about, kids who can't get vaccinated who are now getting sick. So it's just very concerning, but at the same time, where we are is generally a safe place. And we know that all the precautions are being taken. Masks at the school are universal currently, which has been really has been a big relief. But it's been really challenging. It's been scary, and so it's just a little bit letting go a little bit of what we can't control based on what you can control, I guess. And then on the other hand, it's just been really, really difficult to manage illness in general. Like we know that toddlers get sick, right? So they are always sick. They'll have a runny nose and a cough from the age of 2 to 5, right? That's typically how it goes. And that's really been challenging because, Diana will go into care and then she'll get a cold and then she has to leave school because the symptoms are so similar. She'll have to leave daycare and then she has to get a COVID test before she can come back, and her symptoms have to be alleviated. So that's really stressful too, because you're really trying to balance work and there's no continuity. Everything is constantly constantly changing. So that's been really stressful, and it's not fun to have to hold your kid so they can get a COVID test when you kind of in your heart that they have a cold. But at the same time, you're like waiting for that test result because you're like, what if it is? What if it is? So it's nerve-wracking, I guess. So like I said, mentally and emotionally, it's been just bonkers. And I'm looking forward to the day that the girls can get vaccinated so that we can finally feel some relief from this anxiety.
Yeah, and I think I'm so proud of you for just vocalizing what you said of it's scary. Like just to hear another mother say it's scary is what other mothers and parents and everyone need to hear, that's the feeling that you're feeling. And I think that sums it up perfectly. And it's okay to be scared, and it's okay because it makes us still cautious, because this isn't a time where we need to relax on things. This is a time where we still need to be taking those precautions and washing those hands and cleaning those runny noses, as we know those little ones certainly constantly get.
So gross.
Right. And I'm sort of in the boat where, so I have my oldest is starting high school. My youngest is, he's going into 6th grade, so he's not eligible to be vaccinated. my high schooler is vaccinated and he'll be going off to school. And so I'm really interested to hear from you, Emmett, next, because you're a high school freshman as well, and you're vaccinated. So let's talk about how COVID has, impacted your involvement in school and community-based theatrical productions and other activities. And what alternative outlets did you find to get yourself through COVID?
There have been a lot of restrictions on things like school and local theater. Some of the best ways that I found to get through and just keep myself entertained have been a lot of the theater programs have been offering over Zoom programs, which have been really nice. But my middle school, for me, a lot of my middle school experience happened during COVID, meaning, school changed a whole lot, and we've been doing mask wearing.
But it sounds like you took advantage of opportunities, like you said, how you did theater opportunities through Zoom. I mean, that's something great to hear, because we had to pivot so quickly and offer different things in different ways. So it's great to hear that you were able to have that as an outlet. Yeah. John, it's really hard for students of all ages really to navigate the social dynamics of school, and kind of like what Emmett was just saying, how his middle school experience was completely different. I mean, that's one of my fears with my high schoolers. He spent his middle school remote learning. He's been remote learning the past 2 years, so he literally missed out on all of those key things and opportunities within middle school to prepare you for high school. So really, what advice do you have to give back for students who are dealing with fear and anxiety of coming back into a school environment that they really haven't been involved with in a few years?
Well, the first thing I'd say, Audrey, is that's to be expected. So if kids are feeling that way, they should know that's okay. That's probably how they should feel. They should also know that there are a lot of adults that have their back, a lot of people watching what's going on to protect them, but it will take some adjustment. And my advice to students, whether you're like Emmett starting high school or you're going back, is to just be patient with yourself. I mean, the last year and a half has disrupted so many lives, and especially young people who have not been able to do things or engage in activities. So it's going to be an adjustment. I was saying to a student the other day, I'd say going back to school this year is going to feel like a baseball player who's been doing rehab. Chris Sale for the Red Sox was sent down to the minor league so he could get his arm back. And now he's back in the majors. And so it took him some time to get back. And kids who've been out of the routine of school every day in a bricks and mortar sense, it's an adjustment. So be patient with yourself and know that the principals like on this call with us at Alcorn High School, Steve Beals, and the teachers and the counselors are there to help the kids. So if you have any worries or concerns, be free to talk about it. Talk to a teacher, talk to a counselor, talk to your parents, but know that it's okay to feel a little uncomfortable. You'll get back in the swing of things. It may take a little longer than you want, but it'll happen.
That's great advice for both students and parents, that it's okay to be worried and they will get back. So Steve, teachers and other school staff and faculty may also experience anxiety as they go back to working in person after spending the past school year working remotely or hybrid. So for your staff, what advice do you have for them as they cope with these challenges and changes, in addition to the ongoing concerns of COVID-19 that they're hearing about?
That's a great question, Audra. And I'll start with all of us as staff members of a school, whether the teacher, the principal, we all have lives as well. And I can connect with Angelica's words about a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old. My youngest is an 18-year-old who we moved into the University of New Hampshire last Friday. And we moved him into the 8th floor of a tower dormitory in a COVID world. And all of that anxiousness and anxiety and fear for getting sick is very real for us as parents. through the lens of a kid who's 18 who maybe can take care of himself. We'll see how that all goes over time. What I applaud in Emmett is you are involved, and nothing is more important. My message to staff members, my message to students is, whether you're coming back from remote learning, as some children are, whether you're coming back from hybrid, get involved in something so you can start feeling whole again through the experience. And that specifically is my message to staff members. As we open school in Hudson, our focal point is about teacher well-being and student well-being. At the high school end, we can really at times treat our students in the similar capacities of all the anxiousness, the anxieties, the mental health supports and needs. We opened our building with 15 brand new educators. They are finding and cutting their teeth, if you will, at the same time a brand new freshman is coming into our building, like Emmett at Rivendell. And what we are saying to them, exactly as John just highlighted, it's okay to have questions. It's okay to ask for help. Do not view asking for help as weakness. Choose to ask for help because it's going to get you clarity to reflect on the words, the actions, and make goal setting and goal attainment what you're after. And that is, I think, our key. We are fortunate at Alvirne High School that our staff cares about each other. And there is nothing more important in a school environment than have staff who care for one another, because we know that we went into this profession because of our work with students. So I want them to have that double caring capacity. The student piece is kind of assumed, but having adults care about adults, getting those 15 new teachers acclimated to our building, to processes or otherwise. It's palpable. Last year, we had maybe 8 to 10 fully remote staff members. It was difficult for them to come back in the building our first in-service day. Boy, was it difficult. Last year, we had 175 students fully remote. When those students came back to school, we had a special meet and greet for them and their parents. We gave them time before school started to walk the hallways, to go and find their locker, reacclimate themselves around the building to all of those little processes that sometimes in a normal school year we take for granted. And we don't want to take it for granted. So again, we're blessed to have staff and student concerns relative to COVID and what school is going to look like is palpable and real in every geography of our state and every other state in our country.
Mm-hmm. And it's great to hear that you have those support systems in place, and really great advice for both the students and the teachers and staff that you mentioned about just getting involved with things and just get back out there and normalize it. That's great. So Angelica, we already kind of discussed the anxieties that you're feeling as a parent. And so, what kind of advice do you have for other parents who might be feeling that similar way when they're sending their kids to school or daycare, especially during the Delta variant that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, knowledge is power, right? We're our kids' best advocates. So I really believe 100% in getting all the information that you need to make the best choice for you and your family. Like, that's what we do. And sometimes we overanalyze things in my house, but at the end of the day, we kind of lead with our hearts and we say, this is the right thing. So for example, when my daughter Naomi started wanting to play sports, we were kind of like, is this a good idea? And then we weighed all the pros and cons, but at the end of the day, I was like, yes, this is going to be good for her. Right? She needs this in her life. She needs to have some level of normalcy. So I just really think, have as much information as you're comfortable with making that decision. Making the decision to go back to daycare was really, really challenging. But at the same time, I was losing my mind at home, trying to manage a full-time job and take care of a 2-year-old who was pinballing around the house. So you have to make really tough choices sometimes. But if you have all that information, you'll know that you didn't leave any stone unturned, right? And you did what you felt was best and was safest.
Yep.
And I think that's the best I could offer.
No, I think that's great. And I think, going to the reputable, sites that for information and to make it really easy, we've really tried our best for our dh.org and the chadkids.org. We've been collecting resources throughout the Heads Up series and trying to have it live on our website. So we've kind of done the work for the people out there. So if you do have questions on resources around not only health, but around mental health, I encourage you to check out the link on the screen, because we do try to make sure we source really great information that's been vetted and that we know is something that we want to be able to share with everyone. So be sure to check that out. So Emmett, being a high school freshman at a new school comes with its own anxieties and excitement. So how are you coping with the anxiety of going to a new school during this time?
To be honest, like my attitude toward high school, what I imagined it would be before I realized that school would be similar to what it was like during middle school with all the math learning. I'm obviously, I'm excited to, learn see the new curriculum, meet new teachers, just experience high school. But I can feel it weighed down a little more by the coronavirus. I wouldn't say that I am terribly worried at this point, since none of my family or anyone that I've been super closely connected with that lately has contracted COVID yet. So I'm feeling pretty positive. But I'm in general, overall, I'm feeling pretty good.
I love to hear that. And I think that's so important for us to hear. Angelica, as another mom, I feel like isn't it great to hear from the kids' perspective, like they're excited. So it's like that helps kind of ease our minds a little bit, because it's like they want to go back to normalcy, and maybe that'll help us, and the viewers kind of let go of some of that anxiety, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
So John, as we wrap up, can you share, real quick about the fact that you've been continuing to present your REACT program virtually, which has been incredible throughout the pandemic. So now that students will be returning to school in person, what advice do you have for them and for parents as they embark on this new school year?
Well, I love this generation of kids. I really do. They're remarkable. And Emmett's a good example of what I've seen around the state. My advice to parents really is to understand this is an adjustment. It's an adjustment for all of us, as Steve Beals was saying, and to kind of take your foot off the gas pedal for a while as the kids adjust. These kids put enough pressure on themselves. So I think all of us would be well advised to back off a bit and be supportive of what it's going to take for them to get into the swing of things. But I know from the resilience of these kids, they will get there.
They are very resilient. Thank you for that. And thank you for joining us, our Heads Up Coping Through COVID-19. You can view past segments on the web link on the screen. And next week, we're going to talk about our Heads Up conversation is going to focus on returning to the workplace. So Steve, Angelica, Emmett, and John, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Enjoyed our time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and stay safe. Take care.